Hey guys, what is up? It is me, Pagey, here once again with another video on The Flash Season 8, and this is going to be my review for episode 12 for this season, otherwise entitled Death Rises. Yes, a very ominous title, and we have an ominous episode. Lots of death. There was a lot of rising death tolls in this episode, but of course, spoil it if you've not watched it, go away, because what are you doing? Come back later on when you've watched it if you haven't done that, as of yet. But of course, if you haven't watched the episode, you are continuing on with the video. Let me know in the comment section down below your various, thoughts, theories, reactions, predictions going forward, and just based off this episode. Always curious to read what you guys are thinking. And of course, if you're going to enjoy the video, you enjoyed the episode, and just want to show your support for the channel, why not drop a like on the video to do all that? It helps out a lot. So last episode was 2 weeks ago, because we had a week off from The Flash. I completely forgot we had the week off until this episode started, or not just started, but as I was about to watch it, I was like, oh wait, we weren't on last week. It went pretty fast, that break. But pretty much last episode was the quest, if you want to call it, to bring Ronnie back after sensing him within the Black Flame. However, when we bring Ronnie back, we actually have, the body of Ronnie, but it actually ends up being Deathstorm, a glowing blue skeleton. Scary. But this episode as a whole, I thought was a bit of a mixed bag. I definitely think there was much more good stuff than bad stuff. But it just felt like some of the stuff weighted down. It felt a bit weird. Like it felt like you were stopping and starting constantly. But for the most part, I enjoyed enjoyed the episode for what it was, and it definitely sets up some very interesting things going forward. But this episode does start with a monologue from Deathstorm, and it confused me because I was like, hold on, is this the Flash? Because they didn't really have I think the fact is that because they don't have the "my name is Barry Allen" thing anymore, you're not too sure when an episode starts. But I wasn't too sure if this was the start of the episode. I just saw space and I thought I was watching Crisis, because we start with a monologue from Deathstorm where it shows how he clung on to Ronnie and and where he's from pretty much, and it almost felt like the beginning of Crisis or something like that, like with the worlds, the Big Bang and all these different worlds appearing. I was like, are they rerunning an episode? Is the Flash not on tonight? That's what I was thinking at first. But then we cut quickly to the end of last episode where Deathstorm, has, revealed himself to Caitlin, but then he goes towards Caitlin and covers her in flames. And I was like, oh, damn, is she going to die here? What the hell's going on here? And then she wasn't dying immediately like we've seen with other people. I was like, what the hell's going on here? But Barry arrives just in time as the Flash to get Deathstorm off of her. But Caitlin doesn't die. But but Deathstorm warns that he will be back to finish the job on Caitlin. And I'm like, why didn't just happen straight away? Like, what the hell's happening here? Of course, it gets explained, but at the time, I was pretty confused, and I'm pretty sure most people watching would have been as well. Now, Caitlin does explain what happened and why Ronnie all of a sudden became this giant blue flame skeleton, but it does leave both Frost and Barry wondering why now Deathstorm would want Caitlin dead. That's what they're thinking, and why he's attacking her all of a sudden and just targeting her, saying, I'm going to come back and finish the job on you. Like, what's going on there? When he could go on to bigger and better things and just attack other people. Like, if you fail the first time, wouldn't you just move on? So that's obviously a mystery and a big question that we have pretty much until the end of the episode. Now, Cecile does sense issues within Barry. This, of course, being due to Iris randomly disappearing at the end of last episode. But then all of a sudden, she is back. Now, it wasn't a mystery that, whether she was going to be in this episode. They pretty much blatantly put her in promo images and the trailer that said Iris was in this episode. And it makes me wonder what was the point of doing that last episode. Maybe that leads somewhere in regards to the effects of that Tinya thing, but it felt almost pointless now, seeing that she just comes straight back. They could have just had to have another time sickness issue, and that could have set up this whole thing the exact same. Anyway, that's just me nitpicking, I guess. But then we have Iris explaining what happened to her in the events and everything like that, but not really knowing how she didn't die from what Tinya did. But Barry believes it could have been due to her time sickness that helped her out. Now, Iris says that when she went away, and with this whole time sickness thing, she saw various moments from her past, but no future. She's not seeing any future, just events from her past, which leave her very concerned. And that's a sort of a through line in a couple different scenes in this episode. Now, we do get to see the beginnings of Deathstorm's reign of terror within, on Central City. We have this old gentleman with some flowers attacked by Deathstorm in a very swift action, just picked up, burnt, dropped, burnt skeleton. And I'm assuming he was like possibly on his way to a cemetery. I think he might have been like upset as well, like maybe like crying or something, but he's most likely on his way to a cemetery saying he had flowers. But that isn't the only attack. CCPD is absolutely swamped with calls about, attacks and also various witnesses that saw a skull-faced flame thing. And Kramer is of course very worried about, all of this due to her not knowing really what to do about it. I mean, if I was in her shoes, I'd be like, what the hell is this? I mean, we've had metahumans before, but this is completely different. They're killing people at an extreme rate, and then they get stacked on when there's even more worry due to the fact that the Flash isn't 100% sure how to handle it. Like situations with this in the past, when you think of like Zoom, it's just another speedster. So it's just speedster versus speedster, but now this is just some unknown thing that the Flash isn't 100% sure how to deal with. So of course that's going to be very stressful. And the only thing that really helps them is the fact that they know that those dealing with grief are the prime target. So they know those are the people that they need to try and keep contained, if you want to call it. Now Chester can't really pick up his signature on Deathstorm like they were able to, do with the Black Flame, just due to the evolution, if you want to call it, from the end of last episode. But Barry does figure out that the best way to track Deathstorm would be through Cecile's powers. And I think we all agree that Cecile's powers aren't that useful like 90 to 95% of the time. And they're more just like to kickstart a conversation about why someone's feeling upset. But this was a direction, a good direction that I didn't see coming. Now, it didn't play out like I thought it was going to do. Like it sort of like falls flat in its face. But I thought it was a good idea at the same time. Now, we do get Dion in this episode. Barry wants to bring in Dion, but like he got to explain that Iris sort of like just concentrates and Dion can appear. But he eventually comes around and talks to Iris, and Barry's in there at that time. So just Barry, it's just Dion, Iris, and Sue's also there. But Dion is also not able to see Iris's future. Like he can see everyone else's future and what's going to be happening to them, but he can't see Iris's. But then I was wondering, well, can you see Barry's? Like, is Barry alone going, oh, I don't have a wife? Couldn't you just see that? But anyway. But Dion is also feeling this time sickness stuff as well. So they need to figure out a way to slow down whatever the hell is happening to Iris. With Dion attaching like a still force tracking device of sorts to Iris, that's probably what I would call it. But then suddenly Dion feels weird himself and collapses to the ground and fades away. And I'm like, what the hell? Is that because of Iris? Is Iris's like time sickness being like almost like a cancer or parasite on the still force? Or is this because something else is attacking the still force and the still force is in trouble in another way? I'm curious to see how that plays out and what the true source that is, because you got to remember, people still want some answers from that negative still force that was brought up in Armageddon, and whether that was an actual real thing that's going to be playing out later on. Because we know Thawne was behind Armageddon, but there was really no continuation of discussion around the negative still force. But Eric Wallace, the showrunner, has said that like the stuff in Armageddon, it just doesn't end there. It's going to spread out throughout the seas and stuff that was brought up there. And that's one thing that was mentioned, but never really brought up again. So what if it's around this storyline as well, later this season? Just keep that in mind. Negative still force. But we do have Chester hooking Cecile up to like spread out the reach of her powers across Central. I was going to say Star City, but Central City. But they only sense Deathstorm within Star Labs. And it's like, okay, that's really weird. But this is because Deathstorm has actually latched onto Cecile through her powers. And pretty much Deathstorm tells Barry specifically, but also Chester there as well, that they only get out of this alive if they hand over Caitlin. And he also threatens like the tiny slithers of grief that are left over within them, because you can think you're completely safe from it all, but there can just be that tiny bit left over which he can latch onto as well. With Cecile actually coming to and also hammering home Deathstorm's motivations to get what he wants, like she can feel how motivated he was and the drive behind it, and he's not going to stop. He's going to keep coming and coming and coming. So they got to try and figure out something to deal with that like straight away, like really, really quickly. Now we do get this quick sequence where Allegra's walking the halls of Star Labs when all of a sudden her, supposedly dead cousin Esperanza, or Ultraviolet, does show up. And they have a bit of a conversation. Allegra uses her powers on the fake Esperanza, but she also uses her powers back, which surprised me, and obviously in the show surprised Allegra. So Deathstorm and his like ghost puppets, if you want to call them, have leveled up, if you want to put it. But there is confusion as to why Allegra is a target all of a sudden. But I think by the end of this episode, it seems that like Deathstorm can just pretty much do these ghost puppets really at will without too much focus. Unlike with the flame, it appeared like the black flame actually had to become this like the person in question. But Deathstorm might be able to just like spread it out at will and not really have to put too much focus on it, which is very scary and very overpowered. But Caitlin and Frost in the Speed Lab are just chilling out there, trying to stay safe. Well, they'll safe up until now, and there is some weird ominous sounds going on when all of a sudden Frost is like flame slapped back. Like I don't know, is flame slapping a thing? Like I guess now it is because I've just said that, but yeah, Frost is flame slapped back, and she's like knocked unconscious, leaving Caitlin alone for the picking. With Deathstorm, sorry, taking Caitlin away with him. With the Flash chasing after Deathstorm, this is probably the coolest sequence of the episode, with Barry deciding to ride the lightning because he can't get up to the heights that Deathstorm's at. Deathstorm's just going higher and higher and higher because he can fly, but Barry's on the ground, and even running on the buildings wouldn't be enough. So Barry pretty much throws lightning and then rides that lightning, which was awesome. And they used the Metallica song as well. And I was just wondering how much did that cost? Because it's not cheap to use music, and they used a lot of it. Like they played like that song for like a minute and a half or something. So they played a good amount of that song. So I don't know how much that cost. But Deathstorm does go through a portal with it looking to be like space on the other side, with Caitlin and Deathstorm actually coming out at a carnival at another point in Central City, and Deathstorm killing a good, like, what, 4 or 5 people or something like that to feed on their grief, which I thought was really brutal. Like, they were just completely decimated really, really quickly, which just sort of shows Deathstorm's power. Like, he did like another flame slap sort of thing and just killed them really, really easily. But we learn that Deathstorm is going through all of this trouble with Caitlin and traveling all, through space, through the stars, as he said, and just going through all this trouble to make Caitlin his bride, with Barry finding Caitlin eventually after Deathstorm once again covers her in flames, and Caitlin tells Barry that she wasn't ready yet. So she's like, what, not ripe enough? But it seems that after some tests that they see that Caitlin is getting stronger due to what Deathstorm is doing to her. And this like is assisted by killing all these people and feeding on the grief and sort of passing that over to Caitlin. So pretty much it's about, once again, Deathstorm has to go do more killing and then pass it over to Caitlin. But it makes you wonder, what the hell happens to Caitlin? Like, what does she, like, she had like the flame blue eyes and stuff. So does she turn into like a female Deathstorm if, Deathstorm succeeds with all this? Like, that's pretty crazy. But Barry does actually reveal that he recognized what was on the other side of Deathstorm's portal, and it was similar to what was seen through Chester's black holes that he created at the beginning of season 6, with the connecting of dots leading to using the Mac structure that was made to contain Chester and his powers, towards the beginning of season 6. But they need to make it portable, and that is where Frost comes in. So that's where we're going to see Frost be the person that has to be like harness all that power and then dispense it onto Deathstorm. Now, whether it works or not is another question, but it makes you very curious as to where it's going to go. And also it makes you question the safety of Frost as well, and if anything bad will happen to her. But then also it makes you wonder what the hell's going to happen to Caitlin if Deathstorm maybe does succeed before Frost can intervene. I have no idea what's going to happen. It's going to be very, very interesting to see what happens. But the end credits for this episode answered our questions, because we were all wondering, Rick Cosnett was announced that he was coming back as Eddie Thawne for multiple more episodes. So where is he? And at the end of these credits, we see that at Barry and Iris' apartment, Sue's asleep, Iris is just sort of resting and everything like that. But Iris starts to hear some weird noises coming from within, only to be confronted by Eddie. Now, this is, I guess, 99% most likely a construction by Deathstorm. But at the same time, I'm curious as to what Eddie does to Iris, because like Iris hasn't really been involved with this Deathstorm stuff at all. The only thing I can think of is that like heaps of people within Central City will be targeted by these, images of grief and these people that have died that they were connected to. But obviously I think that's going to be chaos for next episode. But I'm very curious to see what happens with Eddie, because the thing I need to say is that in the announcement that Rick Cosnett was coming back for multiple episodes, they said that Eddie or Rick Cosnett will be embodying different people or something like that. And also there was the option for him to come back in season 9 if it was renewed, which we know it has. So I don't know if that was a mislead to not make us guess where the storyline was going or where Eddie was going to show up or how he was going to show up. But yeah, just keep that in mind. They said that he could potentially come back in season 9 if it was renewed, which it has. So I don't know if this can be locked down as a Deathstorm thing, but I would assume it is, but maybe it's a mislead. I have an idea. It might even be associated with time sickness. Who knows what's going on? But this episode, as I said, it was a bit of a mixed bag. There was like some of the scenes that I just didn't really like too much. I either just skipped over them really quickly, but it felt like it was a bit stop and start. But overall, I thought it was a really good episode that still, picked up from the end, from last episode, and continues the story in a very interesting and captivating way. And I can't wait to see how it plays off. But yeah, I'm not 100% sure how it's going to wrap up. That's what actually has me very intrigued, because it could go a couple of different ways. But yeah, guys, thanks for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, it'd be awesome if you could drop a like on it to show support. Let me know in the comment section down below your various opinions about everything we went over, and all your thoughts, theories, everything like that. Always curious to read what you're thinking. And of course, if you are new to the channel, make sure to subscribe, and I'll catch you guys later. Goodbye.